In this video, I want to be talking about getting out of your mother's basement, putting this toilet seat down, and stop whining and crying about your life. Nah, I'm just kidding with you. All that's important, but I don't talk about that shit on my channel. In fact, if you want to hear that, go subscribe to some other channel. My mom never held me. But I'm really going to be talking about betting on the NBA and some tips and tricks that you can use that will actually start making you more money. Don't you want to make more money off the sportsbooks betting on the NBA? Of course you do. Let's do this shit. Okay, so the first things first, you gotta understand bankroll management. I know I sound like Ron Artest and beating a dead horse. I mean, I mentioned bankroll management in every single video, right? But sports bettors that don't understand bankroll management fail every single time. So you gotta start betting in units. And what's a unit, you might ask? It's a consistent amount that you're gonna be betting on every wager you place. For instance, betting 1 to 3% of your bankroll on any bet you place is the recommended way to bet on sports. So let's say you have $1,000 in your bankroll. That means you should be betting $10 on each play you make, or $30 on each play you make. $10 would be 1% and $30 would be 3%. God, I hate math. And in this case, since the NBA is a sport, it's the best way to do it. So stop being a dumbass and putting $500 in your sports betting account and then betting $100 on each game. That's 20% of your bankroll, which is stupid. Your risk of ruin is way too high when you place bets like that, which just means you're going to lose all your money. So if you're new to betting on the NBA, make sure you check out my video on bankroll management. It's so important if you actually want to make money betting on the NBA. When betting on the NBA, get your bets in as early as you possibly can. For instance, when games in, that night have it mapped out which NBA games you're going to be betting on the next day. Because on the East Coast, the NBA lines will open at 8 or 9 o'clock. Let me know in the comments below what time do the runs line open on the West Coast. I'm too stupid to figure it out. I live in Kansas though, right next to Dorothy. God, she's always annoying the crap out of me. Keep in mind that DraftKings and FanDuel are two sportsbooks that the lines do open a lot sooner. That's what she said. This allows you to generate closing line value, which is something a lot of sharp bettors will do very effectively. And note, sometimes sportsbooks do get it wrong in the beginning. For instance, there might be a player that is questionable with an injury. There might be big news about a player, and the sportsbooks overly factored that into their algorithm or didn't take that into account at all. So just remember, the early bird gets the worm. Shut the hell up. I hate that saying. The next time I hear that, Ron Artest is going to punch you in the face. Next, make sure you study the lineups for the NBA teams. Now let me contradict everything I said about betting early. NBA teams are required to announce their lineup at least an hour before the game. Let's say you're betting on player props. Make sure that that player is starting. Make sure that the coach is deciding not to rest that player for the game. For instance, the New York Knicks coach, he's known for busting his players' balls every night, meaning he's going to push them hard, and a lot of players are going to be playing every night. Get out there and play, you pansy. However, some teams like the LA Clippers and San Antonio Spurs, their coaches are known to rest their players. They're really good at load management. I don't want anybody to get too tired. But you can always check the team's website. A lot of times they do announce when a player is going to be resting. And sometimes they just tip it off during a news conference too. Basketball is one of those crazy sports where coaches will rest players a lot more than other sports. For instance, take baseball. There's 9 players out on the field, but in between innings, what do? They sit on the bench. They relax. They eat a hot dog. Okay, so what happens in the NFL? Well, the offense is out there, and while the offense is out there, the defense is resting. When they're resting, they're just drinking Gatorade or water. They're not dancing with the cheerleaders or anything. But seriously, basketball is different than both of those sports because you're running up and down the court all night long. The coach might take you out for a quick rest, but a lot of NBA players will really play the majority of the game. And this brings me to our next point, injuries. Injuries are factored into the sports books, meaning just because some guy is injured, maybe their star player is injured, it does affect the game a lot more than you think it does. For instance, there's like 5 players on the court at all time. When one of your key star players is out and there's 5 guys on the court, it does change the dynamics of the team. Some sportsbooks really don't get it right when it comes to injuries, or maybe I should say some sportsbooks don't react as quickly as they should, or maybe they act too quickly. Whatever the case may be, just make sure you do your homework on that shit. Okay, so remember when I told you NBA is a really grueling sport, or maybe I should say basketball is a really grueling sport? Well, guess what? It sucks ass to run all day long, and that's what you do when you play basketball. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. Have you ever ran up and down lines and did line drills? You run from one line to another, touch the ground, and then run to the other line? God, that shit sucks ass. But guess what? Teams go on games where they're not as rested as the other team. The NBA has made a lot of improvements over the years, and they do give their teams more breaks. And at least they don't make them wear Daisy Dukes anymore. What the hell is with that shit? Teams aren't going to play 4 out of 5 days of the week. But guess what? They might go on a streak where they play 9 out of 12 games in a week while another team has had a lot more rest. So what does that mean? Players are tired, fatigued, and hating life. For instance, last year, Zach Levine of the Chicago Bulls. I knew he was going to be tired because they had been on a run where they were playing several games in a row. So on the last game before they have a break, meaning they had an off day, I decided to take the under for a point scored for him. And I won that bet, of course. But that's what I'm talking about. Players do get tired. Even their superstars get tired. They're not robots. They can't run up and down the field. They can't perform how they always perform every single night. Shaquille O'Neal did play as a genie once. Kazam. So just keep it in mind. Players do need a rest, and you can capitalize on that as a sports bettor. Okay, so it's so important to start shopping for prices when you're betting on the NBA. This isn't just an NBA betting tip. You should be doing this on any sport that you're betting on. But basically, sportsbooks have NBA games priced differently, meaning you might get a good line on FanDuel, and then the other line is not as good on DraftKings. But to put this in perspective, I'm going to get all mathematical and shit on you. Okay, so basically, let's say we're a pretty small bettor, and we're betting like $30 plays. And there's a negative 120 odds, which we usually bet on. When we bet $30, it pays $55. And let's say we do that 25 times a month, it will equal $1,375. Now let's say we find the same line, and it's a negative 110 line. It's a 10-point difference. Pretty common. But really, you can probably find 20-point differences. So you take that $30 at a negative 110 line, and you get $57.27. And you do that 25 times a month, and the total is $1,431.75. That's a difference of $56.75. And if you did this consistently over 6 months, it would be a difference of $340.50. So that's why it's so important to have a lot of different sports books. If you're completely new to betting on basketball, I'd recommend at least 3 to 5 sports books. Let's say you have $500 to bet with, so you put $100 in each one of your sports betting accounts, and then based on the odds for the different sports books, you're going to place your wager on whichever one has the best prices. Now, if all this is like saying the Korean alphabet backwards to you, make sure you look at my video on the odds. It will really get all mathematical and shit and show you exactly why the odds are so important and why you should be searching for the best prices. Also, I did do a video on shopping for the best prices for sportsbooks. Make sure you check that out if you haven't already. And I say cool shit like Boner City Automotive. Come in for a rim job, the whole family gets a blowjob. Boner City Automotive. It's really priceless. I should trademark that shit. If you're going to be betting overs and unders in the NBA, you need to consider the team's pace. Now, what the hell do I mean by that? Okay, so here's a formula on how you figure the team's pace. 48 times team production plus opponent production. Then you divide that by 2 times team's minutes played divided by 5. Yeah, I know, right? Who the hell's going to want to do all that shit? I'll just put a link in the description down below. Basically, you can sort by the team and their pace. For instance, in the 2022-2023 season, the Golden State Warriors and the San Antonio Spurs had the fastest pace. However, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Miami Heat have the slowest pace. And also keep in mind, is a team going through a rough stretch where they're playing a lot of games and this is one of their last games before they have a break? Are they playing a lot of road games where the next one they're going to be going back home? So just keep in mind pace whenever you're betting on overs and unders. This will actually allow you to make a lot better decisions when you're betting your overs and unders too. Make sure you're using promotional boosts when you're betting on NBA games. A lot of sports books like BetMGM, they'll offer promotional boosts every single day or throughout the week. This might be like a 50% boost. So if you wanted to take like an odds of negative 220, now it's going to be down to a 110 odds, which is much better. Again, I've done videos on promotional boost and sportsbooks offering them, and a lot of people seem to think that it's like a scam or something, or the sportsbooks have an inside edge, which really they don't. These sportsbooks want you to bet with them. It's one of the ways they keep people loyal to betting with their sportsbook. So if you're not using promotional boosts, you should really start doing it. Okay, so you've got to keep track of your NBA bets. You can't measure your success if you don't track your bets. Don't manually do it in Excel. That's the long, slow-ass way to do it. Instead, use OddsJam. It's 100% free to use their bet tracking. It syncs with over 140 sports books, meaning you don't have to log in and do it manually. I believe their software cures hemorrhoids too. Their bet tracking is free, but they do offer a lot of premium services, which I highly recommend. So make sure you click the link below and go ahead and sign up for our free account. Alright, well there you have it. These tips when betting on the NBA should really help you. But go ahead and like this video or leave a comment down below. Let me know if you have some other tips, if there's anything you need clarification on. Or maybe you could explain why red delicious apples are called that. They're not delicious, they taste like shit. But anyways, subscribe to my channel if you want more sports betting tips. There's always a shitload of links in the description. And I'm out! Time to go steal some apples from the neighbor's trees!